Hey friends, this is Super Gut Yogurt number 2. If you've missed number 1, go back and watch that because it will make all of this make sense. Otherwise, you don't have a foundation. This is not going to be very relevant. So today we're making SIBO yogurt with the Sous Vide. I've used 10 tablets of BioGaia. To use those, you have to crush them. So I used the flat side of my meat tenderizer. I crushed all of that. I'm going to then scrape it into my bowl. I used a capsule of Biothin. I've used several bottles of this, but this particular bottle, every capsule is very hard. So when I open it up, I have to crush it also with the meat tenderizer. 1 capsule of Digestive Advantage and 2 tablespoons of potato starch. My experience is that potato starch mixes a lot better than inulin. Some of you commented on the other video that inulin worked better for you. Maybe you have a different brand, but that is working well for me. So I use my flat whisk and I'm mixing all of those up in my little bowl. Then I'm going to add a little bit of half and half. I tried using my raw milk and cream and it did not work very well. Plus, I'm using William Davis's Super Gut recipe, and he uses half and half. So in order to get the kind of results that he is measuring in his clinical studies, I'm following his recipe. So I've mixed that up just until it's really thick. You want to be sure all of those cultures are mixed up. You don't want all the cultures at the bottom and all the milk on top. So now I will mix in the rest of it. It calls for 4 cups, but the way I'm using this, that may not fit. So I'm not going to pour all of that in yet. So then here I've used my stainless steel bowl. This is an experiment for me. What I've used in the past is my big stock pot, has a straight side, designed to be hot, but I'm going to try this one because so that if you don't have a huge saucepan or stock pan, that you'll know that you can use this large bowl. You might even have a large plastic or glass bowl. It really doesn't matter. Your sous vide has a minimum water line and a maximum water line. That's what matters, and you need to be able to get your sous vide on there. So I'm going to pour my yogurt mixture into my jar and hope I don't make too big of a mess. Look at that, it's pouring beautifully. And I hope that I got it mixed up. See, when I would use inulin, I would have a great big glob at the bottom of the bowl. So that's why I use potato starch. But some of that Biothin still is stuck. So I'm going to try to rinse that out and get all of that culture. I'm not going to fill this completely all the way. I'm just going to go kind of, just about right there. And then I'll put my yogurt jar in here. Some people have asked, can you use 1 big jar instead of lots of small jars? And yes, in this situation I can. It depends on which container you're using, because in my yogurt maker that I used in the other video, of course I could not use a big jar. It wouldn't fit. I had to use the small ones. Either one will work, depending on your yogurt maker. I'm going to put a little bit more half and half in there. And then I'm going to, off camera, after we finish, I'm going to cover this with a piece of parchment paper. You could get a piece of cheesecloth and attach it with a rubber band. You could also, they make fancy fermenting tools it's just a little cloth with elastic around the edge to cover that. What's important is that you cover it so that you don't get bugs in your yogurt in case you have a fly or something in your kitchen. Plus, you want to avoid, there is bacteria in there all the time. It's very rainy today here. There's probably more mold spores in the air today than there was a month ago. So you want to cover it to protect it. Then the other thing I'm going to do, actually let me come back in. I'm adding hot water until I get to the right, at least the minimum, but below the maximum line on my sous vide. The water is soft heat, so it will help the yogurt to cook more evenly. I am going to put a little more water. I want the water to kind of get up to about the same height as my yogurt so that that water is always cooking very softly. If I left some of the yogurt above the water line, it wouldn't cook evenly. So I'll add a little more water. You don't have to watch me do that. Then this there's nothing special here. I just used something. This silicone lid came in a package of 3. I don't need 3. So I cut so that I can cover my bowl. And some sous vides come with a bowl with a lid that's it's cut to fit the sous vide. And you can do that if you want. I just wanted to spend less money and use what I had. So now I'm going to set this. I pushed my temperature button. I'm going to dial it up. This particular recipe is 106 degrees. If you don't know what temperature to use, you would be safe to stick with about 100 because most of the bacteria like human body temperature because after all, that is where it's supposed to be living. Then I'm going to come to my, okay, 106 degrees. And now on my clock, I'm setting it for 36 hours. So for the SIBO, I've got my food, my probiotics, my half and half, 36 hours at 106. My problem tonight is that in Georgetown, the electricity goes off easily. So if the electricity goes off, I have to come down here in the middle of the night and turn the sous vide back on. So what I like to do is set this in the evening, because remember it's 36 hours. So if I turn it on at 7 p.m., it will be ready a day and a half later at 7 a.m. So you have to strategically think through that. You don't want to bring it up. You don't want to stop it early or late. If you continue to cook it too long, you run the risk of developing fungus. If you don't cook it enough, you'll get significantly less. Some of these bacteria double every hour. And again, Dr. Davis's studies were based on this time and temperature. So you want to go 36 hours at 106. When it's done, and this I'll probably do another video later, but I'm not a videographer or a professional chef, so I don't have 5 batches in different stages to show you all at once. Very often it does separate. And I get whey, which is the water that comes from any kind of cheese or yogurt making. The whey separates to the bottom, and then the cream gets harder and thicker on top. And in the middle, sometimes I have little curdles and sometimes I don't. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just stir it all up and it works perfectly. Once you stir it, it will stay blended. So that is our SIBO yogurt for today. I would love to hear your comments. Like, subscribe, share, and stay tuned, and we'll give you another video next time. I'd love to answer your questions.